of people get neck pain and they also get low back pain because of working from home or sitting in front of a computer. Some of the simple stretches that we can do while we're seated, we don't even have to leave the desk or the workstation for this. We can start with the low back. So with the low back, we want to focus a lot on the posterior chain, which starts with the calf, goes into the hamstring, the piriformis muscle, and also the low back muscles. So these are easy. You just want to hold the stretch for about 10 seconds. Do 2 reps. 2 reps are important because the first repetition basically gets the muscle to move, and it's the second rep that actually gets the stretch going. So easy thing to do, starting with the calf, you just put your foot out, pull, and this is also good if you have plantar fasciitis or flat feet. And all you have to do is pull your toes to your shin and hold it there while you feel a stretch in the back. So that's about 10 seconds. You do one stretch for 10 seconds, you relax, take a deep breath in and breathe out. So this is also becoming like a breathing exercise. And what's important to remember when we're breathing is to breathe from the diaphragm, breathe from here. A lot of us are chest breathers. So fill the air in your lungs as you're doing these stretches. So it becomes multiple stretches in one. And then you do your second stretch where you're pulling your toes to your shin and hold it for 10 seconds. This time you should be able to do more and it should be less painful. So 10 seconds of that. And as we're sitting, then you want to do the other side. 10 seconds, relax, breathe in, breathe out, and again a 10-second stretch. You go back to the same foot again, you pull your toes to your shin, and this time you're leaning forward, and as you lean forward, you start to feel a stretch in your hamstring. So hold that for 10 seconds. Again, same thing, 10-second hold, 2 reps, maybe once or twice a day. And the third thing you can do is there's a muscle called the piriformis muscle that sits right about here. It goes between the hip and what's called the sacrum. That's the bone we sit on. A lot of people complain about sciatica in today's world. Sciatica a lot of times is not really a sciatic nerve issue. It's more of a piriformis muscle issue. So this piriformis muscle, it tightens up and it'll start to put pressure on the sciatic nerve that's running underneath it. So when that muscle goes right here, the easiest way to do it is like a figure 4 stretch, and you can do this at your workstation where you put one foot or ankle on the opposite knee. It's important to press this knee down slightly so we're getting a stretch going. Other hand on your ankle, and good posture. Whenever we're doing stretches, we want good posture. We want the chin tucked in, shoulders dropped, and all we're gonna do is just lean forward until we start to feel a stretch just to the side of the glutes, right about here. That's your piriformis muscle, and underneath it is the sciatic nerve. So we're leaning forward and we're gonna hold it for about 10 seconds again, and we're gonna go back up, breathe in, breathe out, come back in for the second stretch, and this time it should be looser. So it's that simple to get stretches into the posterior chain. And for the low back, you can always do different stretches too. You can, while you're sitting, grab the opposite leg and pull, and that'll stretch out your what's called the QL, or the quadratus lumborum. And again, 10 seconds, and you can do this for the opposite side as well. Those are basic stretches for the low back. And for the upper back and the neck area, it's pretty easy. The most important muscle to stretch would be like your trap. And it's important to remember that there's an insertion of a muscle and there's an origin of a muscle. So with the trap, what we're gonna do is with one hand, if I wanna stretch the right trap, I'm gonna put one hand underneath here, and I'm gonna elbow and shoulder in one line. And I'm gonna not bring my head to my hand. Instead, I'm gonna bring my hand to my head, and I'm gonna pull and hold it for about 10 seconds. And that'll stretch out the trap. And then there's another part of the trap that can be also stretched. So for this, we're gonna sit straight, but this time we're gonna turn our head about 45 degrees. Again, elbow, shoulder in one line. And we're always gonna bring our hand to the head and we're gonna pull, and this should stretch out another part of the muscle. Another muscle that's also very tight with neck, when it comes to neck pain or working at a computer or a desktop, is what's called the SCM, and that runs from back here, and it attaches in the front right above the bone that you feel here. And this muscle is responsible for lateral bending and opposite rotation. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take 2 fingers, we're gonna feel for the bone of the sternum right about here, and just slightly above and to the side is the muscle. We wanna be careful we're not on the carotid artery. So just above and slightly to the side. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna turn our face and look at the ceiling for about 5 seconds. And then we're gonna turn our head and look at the opposite side of the ceiling. And that will stretch out the SCM. And the most important one and the simplest one to do is called a chin tuck, where all we're doing is taking one finger, putting it on our chin, and pushing it back. So we get a stretch of the suboccipital muscles back here. And this is easy to do. It's also very important for posture. It's also important for, a lot of people are talking about the neck hump these days. So this muscle will help get rid of that. It's as simple as that. Another thing that you can do while you're at your desk, especially for the neck hump, is something called, basically, imagine that there's an apple or an orange between your shoulder blades. All you're gonna do is get into a Y while holding the apple between your shoulder blades for about 20 seconds. And then you're gonna come in and your palms need to be facing the front, not this way, not that way, just straight ahead. And then while you're holding the apple, don't drop it, you're gonna come into a W format. You're gonna hold that for another 20 seconds. And throughout all of these stretches, you're breathing, you're doing some deep breathing exercises. And from a W, while the apple's still there, you're gonna go into a T. And then you're gonna go into this letter I don't recognize, but you're gonna hold the apple there still, and the palms need to be facing this way. So that will also help with the neck hump that is becoming pretty prominent in today's world. So those are the three different stretches for the neck, the upper back, the low back, and then we can talk about some other stretches later. While we're there though, we can also talk about carpal tunnel. A lot of us are suffering from carpal tunnel these days. Some simple exercises for your wrist. We have to remember these muscles extend the wrist, these muscles flex the wrist. So something as simple as going into an extension, holding it for 2 seconds. 1, 2, drop it down. 1, 2, drop it down. Do those 5 times, and then use these muscles. 1, 2, bring them back up. 1, 2, bring it back up. 5 reps, each of those, and then make a fist. Go in one direction 5 times, and then go in the opposite direction 5 times. So something as simple as that can help loosen up the forearms and possibly reduce our chances of getting carpal tunnel syndrome. So